Plane ride with Mike. I was working for a medium-sized company, mechanical contractor, with a second office in Columbia, South Carolina. There had been problems in the southern office, and my boss asked me to travel with him and review their operation. This was my first trip in a large private airplane. He owned a twin-engine Cessna, and as a young guy, I was really impressed. It was a nice day. We had no problems during the flight. I got a quick education on the plane's instrumentation, which confused the hell out of me. I nodded a lot while thinking there was no way I could ever fly a plane as complicated as this. As we flew along, Mike discovered something in the instrumentation that didn't look right. We were close to our destination, so we radioed the tower to have a mechanic meet us when we landed. We made our approach and started to descend. Just about the time we were 15-20 feet off the runway, one of the engines locked up. I'd been told the plane could fly and land on one engine. Because we were now just a few feet off the ground, there wasn't enough time to make any corrections. We slammed into the runway, bounced up and down like a basketball, and finally came to a stop. With that, I thought I would shit my pants. But my butt was clenched so tight, I knew that had never happened. I sat there for a minute to make sure all my body parts were still intact, unbuckled my seatbelt, and hurried out of the plane. The mechanic he had ordered was immediately sent out to the plane to check what was wrong. Mike thought it might be a vacuum pump issue, as he'd had that happen before. Mike had previously ordered a rental car, and they were waiting for us. As we walked toward the car, the mechanic called out to Mike and asked if he would return to the plane. We went back, and the cowl was open. We looked inside and saw a rod sticking through the block. He had destroyed the motor. It took about 3 weeks to find a new engine, get it installed, make some minor repairs to the other engine, and get the plane airworthy and safe before inspection. Bad news, by the time Mike got the plane back, the bill to repair and refurbish it to an acceptable condition had cost him slightly over $25 grand. After that fiasco, we made our way to the Seattle satellite office. When we arrived, we found everyone at their desk trying to look like they were busy, which they weren't. I stood close enough to one guy placing a $1,500 sports bet. This, of course, was well before they were legal. I'm a long ways from being a prude. But to do that in front of a person from the main office who was in the process of evaluating their operation was a certain show of disrespect and non-compliance. I found a copy of the schedule that I had sent a few days before our arrival. It had been posted up on the wall, and I was told it was too hard to understand and would not work. They had no intention of giving me the information required to keep the schedule up to date and relevant. They never told me they wouldn't. In true Southern etiquette, they simply told me it would be difficult. What I found was an entire office of incompetence that was not based on inability to do the job. It was based upon hostility between the age-old Mason-Dixon line. They were of the opinion they were about to take instructions on project management from anyone from the North, because that's not the way they do it in the South. Due to my being young, arrogant, aggressive, and for lack of a better word, stupid, I made it clear that the rules would be changed. Nobody spoke up, and they just looked at each other. Mike, being 10 years older and wiser, and a veteran of many personal conflicts, he saw an opening. He looked at his watch and told me, "We only got about an hour to hit our airplane. We got to go." Once back home in our office, Mike received a call from the Columbia office and was told they would work with him to try to change their approach. But there was a big but. They would not answer to me. If I made any attempt to become part of their operation, they would all leave without notice. That put Mike in quite a quandary. He made a decision to hire a new manager from outside their office, but from the South, to run their operation. Again, I told him he needed to shut down the operation after their current projects were completed. He stuck to his original decision and hired a Southern manager who brought along an assistant. To entice him, he made them partners in the operation. They then took control and saw some positive changes for a while. Unfortunately, they soon got into trouble on a very large project. I don't know the details, but during just a few weeks, the Southern office pulled off the project, sold the tools and equipment, and left Mike to bankrupt the Southern office. In the meantime, I had been offered another job and I had left Mike's company. The legal system hadn't yet worked for the details, so I don't know how it ended up, but I'm sure it wasn't in Mike's favor.